Hey everybody, this is Katharine Allen from InterpretAmerica. I'm here in Boston for the Globalization and Localization's 10th annual conference, and I'm here with David DeLong, who is president of Smart Workforce Strategies, and he just gave an absolutely fascinating keynote speech here to kick off the GALA conference. And he has graciously agreed to spend a little bit of time with us here on Facebook Live. Personally, as many of you know, Barry and I at InterpretAmerica talk a lot about how technology is changing the interpreting field and talking about how we have a talent gap and how we have a struggle to adapt to the digital technologies that are literally just flipping everything we do. And so he gave a keynote talk on building tomorrow's workforce in today's economy that had so much relevance, and I'm sure we will continue to share out the information. In fact, it was so interesting that I instantly downloaded one of his books called The Lost Knowledge, Confronting the Threat of an Aging Workforce onto my Kindle, because one of our other topics is the challenge that our gray workforce in interpreting has in recruiting in and bringing in millennials and a younger generation. So I want to congratulate you, David, for that excellent keynote. It turned out to be incredibly relevant for the interpreting profession, not just the translation and localization side. And I want him to share whatever thoughts he has for that. But I'm also going to ask David to share a very special personal story he shared at the end of his keynote, which I think all of you in healthcare interpreting in particular will find very touching and moving. So wait till the end to hear the punchline at the end of the story.
Sure. Well, I closed my talk speaking to this group. I speak to many different kinds of groups, but speaking to GALA at this conference and to interpreters and translators, I knew it was an opportunity to tell a story that's a very powerful one in my life, which is when some years ago I went on vacation with our 3-year-old daughter to the Dominican Republic, and with our 3-year-old and our 7-year-old daughter. And in the first day there, they were horsing around on a banister, sliding down this banister near the pool. And our older daughter landed on top of our younger daughter in such a way that it buckled her leg. And the doctor at the resort said, "You've got to get this x-rayed." And the nearest hospital is an hour and a half away by taxi. And unfortunately, the one nurse who could translate for you today, Spanish to English, is out sick. And so you'll just have to go without a translator. And my wife, in her best mama bear approach, sort of metaphorically grabbed the head of the hotel by the lapels and said, "You get me a translator." And so, of course, what they did is they went into the back office and got the bookkeeper, who was a nice young Mexican gentleman who spoke some English and Spanish. So he got in the cab with us, and that was the scariest part, was the hour-and-a-half cab ride, because in that culture, the cabbies have no function about pulling out blind around buses and trucks, and we thought we were going to die. And so we're begging the bookkeeper to translate to the cab driver to slow down. And he said, "Can't do it. They don't, this is how they drive here." Anyway, we got to the hospital, and everybody did the best they could. It was a lovely, nice, small private hospital, but we felt totally helpless, because there we realized, here we are with our daughter with potentially a broken leg. We don't know for sure, and we can't speak the language. And it was so poignant. One thing my wife and I did keep saying to each other was, thank gosh it's not a brain damage. It's not something life-threatening. That feels life-threatening. Anyway, they x-rayed her, put a cast on. We went back to the hotel and ended up staying the week, because our doctor back here in the States said, "We can't get you into Children's Hospital for a week anyway, so you might as well enjoy your vacation." But I was so moved by the experience that when I came home, we came back to Boston, I called what was in those days Boston City Hospital, but it's now Boston Medical Center, the largest hospital in the city that serves a general population. And I made the largest donation my family could afford to the Translation Services Department, because I felt so moved by and so clear about the importance of those skills and the translator's role, and how vulnerable people with medical conditions felt when they couldn't speak the language of the medical profession community. So it was very powerful experience.
Very powerful experience. So I know that for those of you who are watching now and watch this later, that there will be lots of applause signs for that donation. It's such a sort of wonderful end to the story and end to the keynote, just to bring us back to that human place of how important our language skills are and the very real jeopardy that people are in. And so, of course, in this country, we're fortunate to have a medical interpreting profession that's come a long ways, and hospitals are expected to have competent interpreters and not pull people from the back room anymore, although that's still a battle we're fighting. So I want to thank David DeLong for interviewing with us, and I also really want to encourage everybody to look at his work on changing workplace, because it could not be more relevant for the challenges we're facing in the interpreting profession and the need to figure out how to keep up with the digital change in front of us. And your work presents some incredibly concrete and specific suggestions and recommendations. Is a classic example of someone from outside the field having really relevant knowledge that can help us all. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Katharine, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.